Christy from Canterbury Trails Farm, and today I'm recreating a vintage rabbit pattern, and I found several different pictures online of similar bibs that were done in the 20s and the 30s. This was a pretty popular bib motif, just the bunny, and then the ears would go up around the neck and you'd have strings, or if you were, sometimes you see them with buttons, the buttonhole, and later ones with snaps. I am trying to decide if I'm going to do mine with Velcro or ties. I'll probably end up using ties just because I don't know if I have any Velcro on hand right now, and I don't know if I want to go order it. So I have made my version of a rabbit. This one I saw a lot on things, and I just thought it looked a little mean, and he was like in a coat, but I'm not going to do a coat. I want to do several of these, so I went to simplify the actual part that will be being line embroidered. I'm not going to do fillers or anything. It's just going to be line embroidery, and I have videos up on simple line embroidery, and it's with the recreating the cat pot holders, I believe it was. And of course I will check on that when I post this video. So I'm just using transfer paper that you can get at the fabric store. I think you might be able to get it at Walmart in the craft department. And I'm going over the pattern, which I will supply for you, and you can download it. It is in two parts, and you have to tape the ears together because he was too long for a regular paper. My version of an old theme, and I just thought I wanted to make it a little cuter. I did a little heart for the nose, and I'm doing all of mine out of the blue flannel. If you feel more confident pinning your pattern onto the fabric when you're tracing it, you can do that, but I'm good. And I have some different vintage fabrics that I should have ironed this. I didn't realize it was so wrinkly, but I'm just going to have to work around it here. So I do have some vintage fabrics that I'm going to be using for the background, the backs, and we will be lining this. So I'll be doing the embroidery on the flannel, and then I will be constructing it with the liner, the backing fabric, and then I will be doing I'll be doing blanket stitching around the outside of. Alright, I'm going to trace the rest of these, and then I'm going to start cutting out if your transfer, before you go move to the next thing, just check and see if it didn't come all the way out. I just take a ballpoint pen, or I guess you could use pencil, and just lightly go over the transfer lines. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to cut out the backs. Okay, I finished it, and you can see my poor pattern is just raggedy now. The little hands and feet are coming all out. I ended up drawing out 10 patterns, and that's a little bit more than I intended, but that's okay. So funny, I found this piece of vintage fabric at an antique store, and my youngest brother had a baby blanket, which I think I have. It was made out of the same exact fabric. Now I'm going to go ahead and trace around the pattern, but when I cut it, I'm going to cut it about an inch larger than the pattern all the way around. And then when I get ready to cut the pieces that I'm embroidering out of the big flannel fabric, I will lay down one of these cut pieces of fabric in order to get the exact matching. Some of them, I used this other fabric I had. It's sort of got a linen feel to it. It's also vintage and it has the blue bunnies on it, so I thought that was awesome. And had the tracing of the bib pattern, and then I left about a ½ inch around it for sewing. Before we cut the liner for the rabbit bib, we had, this is from a 1928 Hirschner, which is still in business. This is their needlework catalog, and I could only dream of such a catalog today. All of these were like pre-stamped. You could get clothes that were pre-stamped and you could embroider them. It's just amazing. I would just love this. But so this is a little bib, a rabbit bib. There were toys that were stamped. The rabbit was a popular theme. See, you have more rabbits in this little girl's apron. It's just the rabbit was a popular thing to be embroidering. Okay, you also need to cut two 14-inch long pieces of double fold bias tape. And the reason why I use double fold bias tape instead of ribbon is because it just, the cotton or polyester blend, it just holds up well in the wash. And after we get it in the bib, we're going to turn the bib inside out, and then we will do zigzag along the edge to close that double fold. So in your bib, I have laid out the two right sides of the fabric touching each other, and then the batting on the back. So we're looking at the inside out. You want to take one of your pieces of bias tape, and we're going to feed it down in here. We're going to leave this bottom down by the feet. We're going to leave that open. That's where we're going to turn things inside out. So I'm going to feed that down in there, up through the center of the ear, so it's sticking out at the top by about inch to a ½ inch. And then I'm just going to put a pin there. I'm going to use a straight stitch, and we're going to sew around directly under the outline stitch that we did. And then when we get to the end, we're going to flip to zigzag, and I'm going to just do that to reinforce the edges. Switch to zigzag. Now I'm going to reach in between the two fabrics, not the batting, because we want the batting to turn inside out. Okay, and I'm not done yet because I'm going to go blanket stitch the edges. First of all, I'm going to flat seam the bib here. We're going to close this bottom, and then after I flat seam it, then we will be doing the blanket stitch. You can't go iron it, so you must make sure you iron your fabric before, because if you iron it with the batting in, it's going to sort of melt it, which is fine if you wish to have like a more compact kind of batting, then that will work. I got it. At the bottom, we're just going to fold in the the opening that we left. You can pin that if you want. I'm just going to hold it. I'm going to switch, make sure we're on a straight stitch. And we're just going to straight stitch. We're going to flat top stitch. Pink on this side so you can see the top stitching there. Okay, so that gives it a little bit of definition, and then I will go around and I will do the blanket stitching, and then we'll come back and look at it. Before we go do the blanket stitching, I'm going to do the ties real quick. Zigzag, and you want to find the side that has the open part of the tape and close that up, and we're just going to zigzag it here. Ready to be embroidered, so I'll go do that, and when I come back we will look at the finished project, and just in the event that we end up with a picture if something happens and I can't get back to talking about it, then we'll just look at the blanket stitch. I do have videos on how to blanket stitch. I also have videos on how to outline stitch. The outline stitch is with the cat pot holders, recreating a cat pot holders. The blanket stitch is a separate video in itself. So just in case I don't get back, this is Auntie from Canterbury Trails Farm. I'll talk to you later.